Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, your exclusive source for 2A basketball. And now, your hosts, coming to you from the Slim Force studio, Andy and Benny Hill.
Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to 2A basketball here in the fantastically beautiful state of Utah. I'm your host, Andy Hill. I'm here with the coach, Benny Hill, in the newly renovated Slim Force studio, sponsored by Security National. We'd also like to remind you that the Fourth Row Podcast is still the number one 2A basketball podcast, 35 weeks running. Comes out every week, the audio version on Monday. Look for the YouTube version on Wednesday or Thursday every week. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on all of our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Fourth Row Media.
Just to know, Coach Truman blew me up yesterday. He didn't think that the podcast came out last week.
Oh, yeah, he told me that. He's like, I searched and I couldn't find it. I said, Coach, it's out there. He's like, no, I looked for episode 3 and I could not find it.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, the podcast, we're trying to get it out on Monday mornings, as always, the audio.
The audio version.
It can be found on Spotify, and I believe it's on Apple now.
It is on Apple.
Okay, check mark on that.
Yes.
You can find it there, or you can find it on the website. And then the YouTube. It's been a new thing for us to get that going up, to get the audio linked with our video and get that primed for YouTube. Wednesday morning is our goal for that.
Yeah, that's Benny does all the behind the scenes work, production work of that. The audio is much easier than the video version.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
So as we move to the next level here at the Fourth Row, we ask for your patience. We're getting there, but we've had
kind of like our preseason.
Yeah.
Everyone gets their preseason to work out the bugs. This is our preseason.
We're getting there. I will tell you that I have had nothing but fantastic rave reviews about the YouTube. People love it.
It's a different thing. We mentioned it's a different avenue to get your message out there, and some people really love it. So we'll keep going with it. We'll get it fine-tuned.
So far, it's been good.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
Tonight, what we have going on the podcast this evening, we'll talk a little bit about the Central Utah preview. We've got a fantastic weekend of games down there. We're going to cover breakdowns of Region 18 and Region 19. Our Inside the Numbers segment, we got some interesting things to talk about there. Favorite segment, the Power 5 segment.
The Power 5.
We're going to break that out again. We've got some shakeups this week.
We do.
So we've got a Power 5 segment and then the G Telco wrap-up at the end.
Yeah.
So let's roll with it.
All right, let's talk about the Central Utah preview. We know we weren't able to get there on Friday because of work, but both of us watched games. Thank goodness. TeamHive.live, Barrett Hilton, they do an amazing job of broadcasting games. It's so nice to be able to sit wherever you are and just kind of turn it on in the background, listen to the simulcast. And then Saturday, we spent almost all day at the SVC.
My first initial thought was watching games for our purposes, watching games on the TV is nice, but being there in person to visit with a lot of people we visit with was unquestionably much better being there than just watching on TV.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We were visiting just briefly before the podcast. And last year, when we went to the preview, we were excited because we thought, we're gonna be able to mix and mingle and kind of throw the podcast out there, and we had no idea what we're doing.
Actually, we were kind of a little intimidated.
We were.
To be honest with you.
We were. But this year was I will tell you, walking into the building this year, it just felt very familiar.
Yeah. And there was a lot of familiar faces. That's what I enjoyed going there. One, there's a lot of basketball being played, but a lot of familiar faces we got to visit with. Mm-hmm. Just for me, selfishly, I love to go visit with the coaches. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of good friends that I've met over the years, and I love to just talk to them. And honestly, we talk a little about basketball and a lot just about what's going on in life and friendship and what's going on in families. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things. Coaching, I've said this before, coaching is a lonely business. It really is. And especially with coaches that win a lot, that equals a lot of drama. Mm-hmm. And then also on the flip side, you have coaches that their teams are struggling. And when you're losing, that equals drama.
Yeah.
So you kind of have coaches, and they like to talk, and everyone understands one another. So to me, I love to go visit with coaches because they're just a genuine group of guys that honestly, believe it or not, parents, coaches just care about kids.
Oh, yeah.
And they want kids to be successful. And sometimes there's hard conversations that have to be had, and sometimes there's hard decisions that have to be made. But at the end of the day, coaches just care about the success of the overall team and the overall kids participating.
100%. Yeah.
So anyway, along with that and talking to coaches, I was somewhat disappointed to hear year after year, just what it is. Coaches take a lot of heat. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they get a lot of crap dished their way. Sometimes it's deserved. Rarely is it deserved. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's just selfish. I don't know. Coaches take a lot of heat. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so not to belabor that, but it was awesome to visit with great coaches out there. We sat down. I think the first guy that came to bug us was Coach Rhodes.
Oh yeah, he did. I turned around and I was like, well, the funny backstory, we were watching the game and there was a guy off in the distance and he was barking at the officials, and there wasn't a lot of people at the SVC because you could hear exactly what he said. And I turned to Benny and I said, that looks like Darren Rhodes over there. And sure enough, about 10 seconds later, I turned around and Darren Rhodes was sitting in back of him, and I'm like, were you that guy over there yelling? He's like, no, that wasn't me.
Anyway, so a lot of great coaches
Absolutely.
we got to visit with. So I enjoyed that myself.
Yeah, it was fun. Me too. The first people that I went, I had some friends who I knew they were going to be there, who, again, last year when we went to the SVC, I wasn't looking for anybody when I walked in. We were just trying to find our way down to the press row and timidly sit down. I went down, sat down, talked to Duke Randall and Jim Crouch.
By the way, did you notice my swag on tonight?
The Enterprise Wolves.
Thank you, Coach Randall.
But to your point, I was thinking about this today. Of all the people that I talked to yesterday, I talked to a fair amount of parents and talked to a bunch of coaches. Very little of our conversation was about basketball.
That's right. That's what I found too.
Almost nothing. I talked to Coach Priest from North Summit for 30 minutes. We talked about basketball for maybe 5. Mm-hmm. Talked to the Duke Randall and Jim Crouch were there. We talked about basketball for a minute, and invariably we started talking about our kids and missions and everything else. I ran into Jennifer and Bo Morrill from Colville, actually out from Hennifer. They had a boy playing on the team, and talked about our kids. There was the Smiths from North Summit there. Their son is serving in Harley's Mission. They've got a son on the team from North Summit.
Nice.
Visited with them about kids, and it was just wonderful to sit down and talk to them. Had a couple players came up. Brady Crouch came over and sat by his dad, and I looked and I said, Brady, I think I personally talk about you more than any other player. And he was so good about it. He honestly just looked and said, thank you, I appreciate it. Dax Hunt was there. Got to meet Dax Hunt, and Brady's dad said, hey, do you know who this is? And he's like, oh yeah, I know who this is. So it was fun to. It was fun to just be there.
Can I tell you, I was sitting. It was during the North Summit game, and we were where we were sitting, and I saw across the way a dad get up, and he'd been hollering at refs throughout the game. He was pretty fiery, and he was a North Summit fan. And he comes walking over, and he goes through the gate and starts walking up the stands, and he looked like he was a little fired up. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And he comes and walks right down and sits right in front of me. I'm like, oh no, you bristle up a little bit,
big guy.
Like you're gonna have a confrontation.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? I'd like to thank you guys for what you're doing with the podcast. And he said they're frequent listeners, and his son loves the podcast, and that made it all worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
I thought we were going to have a showdown or something,
Well,
like I'd piss somebody off on the podcast.
It's interesting you
or not,
said that, because I looked up at one point and I'm like, I wonder who that guy is anyway. Who was it?
It was Sawyer Richens' dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from North Summit. So,
nice.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was very, very cool. I also went and visited with Coach Mick Houston.
Mickey.
Great guy. He's always a great visit. He would like to be on the podcast at some time in the future date, which would be an absolutely wonderful guest to have on the show. He introduced me to Kel Glover's parents, and they shared a special thought about the podcast that they were listening to, and talked a little bit about how they were they enjoyed listening to the podcast and the messages that we talked about with Jackson. So anyway, a lot of great parents, a lot of great fans of the podcast, and awesome coaches out there we got to visit with.
Yeah, it was a fantastic day. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Let's talk about the basketball for a minute.
You know, interestingly enough, to me, it looked like there was a little bit different style of basketball being played. Obviously, the shot clock is present. I wonder if basketball. Well, let's just throw it out there. Basketball, it just seemed to be a lot faster, a little bit more erratic. That'd be fair to say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Seemed to be a lot more physical too. A lot of fouls, defensive fouls, and I wonder if the advent or the addition of the shot clock has now put teams in a little bit of hyperdrive offensively, because now you've added a lot more ball screening than you typically do see in the college game. It's like shot clock runs down, point guard has the ball, he just brings up a high ball screen, and they just play off of that. So it seemed like a little bit more erratic offense. We didn't see a whole lot of the traditional just smooth flowing offenses. But there wasn't a whole lot of shot clock violations either. So it's interesting that the pace was faster, but it really didn't need to be.
Yeah.
That was kind of my observation, just personally.
Yeah, it did feel a lot of the games were, like you say, they were kind of in hyperdrive. It was almost like there was this 2-minute drill and we're behind and we got to push and get going. But the whole game felt like that.
So there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of additional ball screens, a lot more aggressive tacking the rim. So it seemed like there was a lot of charge calls, just because that was kind of the nature, just a lot more attacking downhill style of basketball. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how it plays, see if things level out as the season goes on. But I just thought that the overall play offensively and defensively was more aggressive than I've seen in a while.
Yeah, one thing I noticed too, it seemed like at least a lot of the games we watched yesterday, the first quarter, second quarter just blew by really fast. I think just that pace of play was fast. They were quick. They were out getting running. And then to your point, as the third and fourth quarter came, there was a huge amount of fouls. And the fourth quarters were dragging on, and then teams got in the bonus. And there was a couple games that the last 2 or 3 minutes took forever.
Yeah, so I'm just curious to see how that's going to play out with the officiating, if the officiating loosens up a little bit, or if teams settle into a better rhythm and routine offensively to where it's not so erratic and chaotic. That'll be interesting to see. But overall, I thought it was just awesome to see kids out playing. There was some great games. There was the North Sevier, unfortunately, fortunate for San Juan, unfortunately for North Sevier, lost on a buzzer beater. That was a very, very competitive game. For me, the game of the day was North Summit v. Parowan.
Holy cow. I had a chance. We were up sitting with Benny and his family for a minute, and I decided I was going to go down and sit at the scorer's table. One of the benefits of having a media pass, you can go sit at the scorer's table, and it is a fantastic view down there. Part of the reason I wanted to go down there is North Summit's longtime scorekeeper, Jackie Vernon, was down there. If you've been around... Purple hair. She is North Summit through and through, and that lady has a heart of gold. And I wanted to just go down and visit with her. Over the years, being the PA announcer in Gunnison, I've got to know her and get to see her around. And she is at every North Summit event. She is a brave through and through. So I went down and sat at the scorer's table, and it was so fun to see the energy on the North Summit bench. Our good buddy Mel Brown. I'll tell you what, that guy had...
He's the first guy that threw shots at us last year.
He did.
At the Central Utah preview.
Yes.
We had the rankings that came out, and he threw a jab right back at us because they beat Parowan last year.
They did.
He's the first one that engaged with us, Mel Brown.
So we were interested to see how this was going to go. On paper, you look, Parowan had Brockfelder.
It should not have even been a game on paper.
On paper. But North Summit, they rolled the ball out, and I'll tell you what, those boys came to play. Mel Brown, I thought, played exceptional. He and Buck Sargent matched up. Buck Sargent is the coolest name ever. I mean, it just sounds tough, right? But those two guys handled Brockfelder and Luke Millett. You're talking 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", some big guys. Those guys went toe-to-toe with them. They didn't back down. The energy that I could hear in their huddle and timeouts with Coach Priest. Coach Priest was getting after it, but I'll tell you what, I was impressed with some of their young kids. They were in the huddle, and they were saying, all right, guys, this is what we got to do. Here's what we're going to go. We're going to win. We're going to do this. I was so impressed with that young team yesterday.
And not to overstate it and be too dramatic, but that was like the purest form of the underdog, putting all the pieces together. Coach Priest had them all on the same page. And just by sheer will and grinding it out, they got to win.
Yeah. Their guard play, Sawyer Richens played well. Their guard line played well. Like I say, Buck Sargent and Mel Brown played amazing. It was cool too, sitting at the scorer's table. It must have been the third quarter, and Mel came over and fisted me, basically said, "Hey, we're going to go win this game." And I love that. I love that energy. And if you know Mel, shout out to Mel. I told you we'd give him a shout out on the podcast. That's what you love to see in
Do you remember last year at the state tournament? North Summit was not in the state tournament. He was there by himself. When we first walked in, he was the first guy kid we saw. Mm-hmm. They're watching games at the SVC at the state tournament last year. He's in it to win. He's a baller, man.
Yeah, and the other thing that I noticed too, there was a couple times, it was a pretty physical game. At one point, Buck Sargent, he was pretty fired up. And this is what I liked about Mel. Mel went over and told him, said, "Hey, it's okay. You got to calm down. You got to calm down." You love to see that on a court from guys. It was a great early season game. I wish there would have been 1,000 people there to watch it because that was a fun game.
No, I was just happy for Coach Priest and his team getting a win, and those kids, in a small way, defying the odds and beating the bigger team. And I was happy for them.
Yeah,
that was an exciting game.
I was happy too. It was fun to see some of the 3A teams as well.
Manti looks good.
I was going to say arguably the best team out there was Manti. Coach Shakespeare, he have a well-oiled machine. They run 5 guys out there, and it's like a hockey line change. They run 5 more guys out there, and you cannot tell the difference.
No, they're a very special team. They're going to do great things this year.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Manti.
Yep.
So
anyway, so a lot of games. The 2A teams that we did see, Enterprise stumbled Friday against a much improved Ogden team.
Much improved.
Very lengthy, very long, very aggressive, and great shooting team. Enterprise was slow starting, slow getting their bigs in the game. They dropped that one, but they come back with a very impressive 20-point win over Carbon.
Oh, yeah.
South Sevier handled, they beat North Summit on Friday. It's about a 6-point game, so win for South Summit. Also impressive.
South Sevier.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
South Sevier.
Yeah.
But North Summit hung was about a 6-point game.
Yeah.
So, see, who else do we have playing? Kanab went 2-0.
Duchesne game was a great game.
That was a great game.
Yeah. The Duchesne Eagles showed up to play. They looked good. Kanab's good. And Duchesne went toe-to-toe with them.
Yes, they did. Duchesne, I know Coach Hoops visited with him, a great friend. He's very high on his team. He wants to fly under the radar a little bit, I think. Unfortunately, it's too late.
Yeah.
He's got a great squad.
Yeah,
and they showed out well against Kanab, and they played a very a tough, tall, long Juab team at 9 in the morning. Those games suck irregardless. Duchesne, they're going to be there.
Yeah, they're a tough team. Yeah.
Did we miss anybody else?
Really, we talked about Parowan, Kanab, the Wolves.
Oh, North Sevier. Like North Sevier, they lost a heartbreaker to San Juan. They played well enough to win that game. They really did.
Yeah.
San Juan have the ball at the end, drive down the lane, questionable charge call, refs let it go, kick out 3, hit it at the buzzer. Mm-hmm. So San Juan celebrates the win, but North Sevier was game.
Yeah, I thought Coach Shepard's group, if you look at them, size-wise, they're clearly overmatched, but they play hard, they play tough. San Juan, they're on a rebuilding season. A little bit of news from Bronco Nation. They had originally hired a coach at the first of the season. For whatever reason, he's left. Coach Jeff Johnson, that was one of Coach Travis Black's assistants, and also his brother-in-law, has now been given the reins of the team. So my understanding was he was given the reins on Wednesday. They hit the bus on Friday and headed to Richfield. So traded some texts with Coach Johnson tonight. Welcome him to the 2A ranks.
Welcome, Coach.
This is nothing to him, but being the man in charge is different, and you don't have the squad of guys that they had from last year.
Well, it's a lot different being in the number 1 seat versus the number 2 or number 3 seat. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah. So we're excited for them. Coach Johnson's going to do good things. He texted me back tonight and said he's excited. He loves the podcast, and he'll do anything he can. So welcome.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting thrown right into the fire,
yeah,
whether he likes it or not, huh?
And I think the Broncos, as I watched them through the first couple games, they're getting better. You're talking about a team who right now had virtually no varsity experience going into the season.
Yeah.
The kids know how to win. They're football players. They were part of that team last year who won. So they went toe-to-toe with these guys every day in practice. So they're familiar with it. Give them some time. Coach Johnson will correct that ship. He'll get them going. Sounds like they've had a little turmoil the first of the season just with the coaching thing, but they'll get it going.
But one other thing, you mentioned Coach Shepard. Great guy.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Great guy. I love the fire that he brings to the game. He was a fantastic player, too, by the way. Very, very skilled basketball player. He loves the game. Wife, the same thing.
Yeah.
Very skilled player, loves the game. And he just wants the Wolves at this point now to be competitive, start getting wins. And I think he was, irregardless, you lose a buzzer beater, you don't get to celebrate the win. But the reality of it is, if you step back, if San Juan misses that shot, in the grand scheme of things, you're no better or no worse team.
Correct.
Whether they make that shot or not. Yeah. You just don't get to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach Shepard, I've told him, just keep grinding. I mean, he's got his team on the right track.
Yeah, I thought they played well. There was some good intensity in that San Juan game. It was a good early season test for them. They're going to surprise some people.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So
I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
That was the weekend. Those are kind of the thoughts that I had. Great parents they've got to visit with, and always love to give a shout out to all the great coaches and all the work they do.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be down there. I think it's a little bit, we talked a little bit about this on the way home last night. It's a little bit nostalgic when you go into the SVC. The last time, at least I think I was at the SVC, was at the 2A state championship game last year.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of memories flooding around walking in there and seeing people, and that was the last thing that we were a part of, was watching that amazing championship game last year. So looking forward to a lot of exciting things happening this year.
Yeah, it was a great environment there.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a breakdown of Region 18. We're going to do Region 18 and Region 19 tonight.
If you don't mind, we'll roll through Region 18 pretty quick.
Go ahead.
So we can focus on Region 19. No disrespect, Region 18 is just the way it is.
Yeah.
We don't know a whole lot, and there's not a whole lot we can bloviate about if we don't really know.
That's true.
I was kind of close to the microphone right there. I'm kind of blowing myself out. Region 18, let's just start with the top. American Heritage Patriots, coached by Coach Winatana. A couple interesting notes about them. Finished 2022 as the number 2 ranked scoring team in 2A at 65.2. They finished 8-0 in their region last year, 11-7 overall. That's about all the information we have on them.
Yeah, we know in the past they've had some good players, American Heritage. We've heard rumblings here or there that they may be good this year. They have one good quality win this year.
I think they're one game. They beat American Leadership.
Yeah. So other than that, this is again, like Benny said, this is the challenge with this region. We just don't have a lot of information. You don't see them play. Not a lot there.
Coach Winatana, and he's a great coach.
Absolutely.
Great pedigree. He's going to put a good, like I said, they were 8-0 last year. So traditionally, they have been the class of Region 18.
Yeah.
Mazer Prep Lions head coach Mass Wadabe. He was the coach when I was coach. When I started, he was still there.
Oh, really?
This is 13th year. So
most of these guys don't last.
I think he started the same year I did. So he's been there a long time. They finished 2022 the number 18 in the RPI, 5-4 in region. They were number 20 in scoring last year at 38.2, and number 16 in defense at 56.2. So that's a difference of almost 18 points a game in the deficit.
Yeah.
So they'll struggle last year. Some returning contributors that the coach lists: Isaac Okawa, senior; Caleb Munoz, senior; Jaden Gardner, sophomore. Coach leaves a comment: a new team without much size again, but good ball handlers. New shot clock will change some offensive strategy. So there we go on that. Third in the region, Freedom Prep Eagles. Coach Cameron Colford, his third year. They finished last year 1-11 and 1-5 in region. 22 in the RPI. Don't have much on Freedom Prep. So the exciting team of the group, in my opinion, the Rockwell Hendersons. The Rockwell Marshalls, James Taylor in his first year. Last year they finished second in the region at 8-2. Is that right? Region at 8-2 record. 17-7 overall. They had a great year.
They did have a good year.
Now, when the RPIs came out last year, they fluctuated 7 to 8 all year long almost. So they had a great year record-wise. They finished overall 8th in the RPI, and probably one of the testiest games of the state tournament last year was them first-round matchup quarterfinals versus San Juan.
Yeah, they pushed them. They were ahead in the fourth quarter.
Final was 69-58. So they led most of the game.
Yeah.
They were 9th in offense last year, and interesting to note, they were number 2 in defense in 2A last year, which is, obviously you saw it was a very chaotic, I don't know, a matchup zone. I don't know if you even call it, just very chaotic run and jump, scramble type defense last year that took teams a while to figure out what was going on because typically you expect defenses to be in certain positions. And like in man-to-man, you expect teams are going to have a help side defender, or if they double team, you expect defenders to be in certain places, and offensive players can anticipate where defenders are going to be for screening and those kind of things. When it's just chaos, you have no idea where guys are going to be. Yeah. And they frustrated the champs last year.
They did.
So they're returning contributors this year: Colton Henderson Sr., Colby Henderson Sr., Luke Henderson Sophomore, and Tyler Langford Sr. Coach's comment, we have a great group of young men. Our program is very small, and our lineup is mostly under 6 feet. Great heart and effort is abundant. Oh, we saw that last year. As a coach, you can't ask for much more than that. They have the character and grit to compete every night, and that makes the season exciting and interesting. We have some newcomers who have never played high school basketball, but they'll be key contributors to the team. It's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, and I've noticed they've started off well by virtue of playing in I'm going to say a weaker region. You're going to see Rockwell. That's when the RPI comes out, they'll probably be floating around that 6 to 8 range again.
What are they at right now? 4-1 or 5-1?
4-1, I believe. So just by virtue of winning games, when the RPI comes out I believe it's the 15th of this month, they will probably be in the top 10.
That's just similar to last year, just the way it will be. Next team down the list, the Merritt Academy Knights. First-year coach Bruce Bills. They finished 3-5 in region last year, number 21 in the RPI, and number 22 overall in offense, number 19 overall in defense. And the last team, Utah Military Camp Williams, the Marauders.
The Marauders.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, they've had some cool names.
Yeah, this region definitely has some cool names. Porter Easton, first-year coach. They finished 1-9 in region, number 21 in offense, number 21 in defense. Key returners or contributors: Andre Iowa, point guard, and Jackson Moody, shooting guard. Coach's comment: the players and I are inexperienced, but I think we can work together and we can win some games. Yeah. I hope they can.
I hope so too. If you go back and look at the points, the offense and defense, there was only 2 teams in this region that averaged more points than they gave up, and that's Rockwell and American Heritage. So it's hard to win games when you give up more than you score.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
And I think that's what we've seen traditionally with this region, is that a lot of transition, a lot of things going on. They don't get a lot of year-over-year success, and so it's a challenge. And
this region, unlike the Region 17, we actually do see more Region 17 down here. We just saw Coach Alvidrez brought his squad down to Gunnison Valley on Friday night. APA West Valley, I believe, is coming a little bit later in the season to Gunnison Valley. I know North Sevier is going up there to play. So we're seeing more of Region 17. They're getting out a little bit more. This region, we just have not seen it.
No, don't.
Occasionally some teams have traveled up to American Heritage and got games there, but that's about it. So this is a very, very difficult region to get a beat on.
It is, yeah. So that's the lay of the land in Region 18. Let's move on to Region 19, the Juggernaut.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the same thing this year.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be just like it was last year.
Do you want to start? Well, how do you want to start? You want to just start? We'll just start as to how the coaches poll finished this year. You start at the top. You good with that?
Yep.
The coaches poll starts this year for Region 19. Coach Christensen and South Sevier Rams. They finished last year let's see, 5th in the RPI, and they ended up losing in the quarterfinals to Roland Hall 51-42 at the SVC, which was a great game for Roland Hall. They played very, very well. Salsiver didn't shoot well. Overall offense, they finished last year 11th in scoring and 11th in defense. Very well-rounded team. Looks like returning starters or returning contributors, your do-it-all guy, Emilio Miramontes, he was dynamic yesterday at the SVC.
Oh, yeah. He my opinion, I think he's the best all-around player on this team.
Rebounds, defense.
He does it all.
Can score, shoot. I was sitting with a group of coaches, Coach Randall, very well versed in the post game, and Coach Hoops. We were visiting together. He's very familiar with the post game, and both of them spoke very highly of the way he plays, but also the way he can handle himself in the post, being undersized. Yeah. So shout out to him. Emilio Miramontes, Riley Barney, the guy with the motor. He just goes. Keegan Heath, Carter Abraham, Ridge Tebbs. And then you have we saw some younger kids get on the court. Yeah. A group of sophomores that seem looks like coach list here in the preseason. What do they call it? Capsule. Mm-hmm. Brace Brindley, Max and Bastion, Canyon Okerlund, and Stockton Roberts to see time this year.
Yeah, I did see in the game yesterday Stockton got some minutes. I don't know the team well enough, at least the younger kids well enough. I do know Stockton, so I saw he came in late in that game yesterday.
Coach Christensen commented, our team is looking to improve from where we left off last year. We were returning a lot of experience with our seniors and bringing up a tough sophomore class. The boys will work hard and be ready to compete in each game. We are going to take each game one at a time and look to make strides throughout the year. Our goal is to be playing our best basketball when the state tournament comes around. Salsiver is a special team. Mm-hmm. And you talk about a team that flies around the ball, offensively and defensively, they're just in attack mode. Mm-hmm. Said this a lot about Salsiver, very skilled. Mm-hmm. And all of them, they're pretty much all guards, maybe guard/forward if you want to use that term, but they're all built about the same way, and great footwork, great ball handling, great shooters. So they are going to be a tough out this year.
Yep, very good team, fun to watch.
Number 2, Kanab Cowboys, head coach Jaron Glazier in his second year. They finished last year as a number 10 team in the RPI, ended up losing to Enterprise in the semifinals, ended up winning the third, fourth place game to finish third last year in the postseason. Offensively, they were number 10 in scoring and number 13 in defense. Returning contributors for the Cowboys, Cason Janes, Jordan Cornell, Logan Little, Kel Glover, Derek Brown, Trent Orton, Brandon Daya. Mm-hmm. Coach, he really went out on a limb here on his comment. It says, excited to see if we can put pieces together to be special.
They're a fun team to watch. A lot of these guys we saw last year, obviously Cason Janes, Cornell, and Logan Little. My observation of the game so far this season, Logan Little is the difference maker. Cason does his thing. Cornell does his thing. Logan Little quietly comes in. He gives you 6 to 8 points a night, gathers up some rebounds, gets some garbage buckets. He is a difference maker on this team.
I will add to that, having Kel Glover on the court as a point guard, an additional ball handler, is going to free up Coach Glazier to do a lot more things with Cornell particularly. Yep. So, and Kel Glover, he's a tough nut.
And he's getting better. He's only a sophomore.
I just watched as a sophomore handling the basketball and being undersized. In his eyes, he played. He's got confidence. Mm-hmm. You can see he's not intimidated and scared by the situation. So he's going to be a great contributor to the Cowboys. Other players, Derek Brown, Trent Orton. One thing I noticed, they're going to get a lot of shots.
Oh yeah,
with this team, because people are going to have to defend Janes and Cornell. These guys, they had a fair amount of open looks last night in the game against Delta. And that'll probably continue because people are going to have to bring help on these other guys.
Yeah, and I know all these guys got minutes. Brandon Daya had some big buckets last night.
He played big in the second half.
He played big. Derek Brown played big. All these guys, they'll play 7-8 guys, and Coach Glazier will run them in and out. Excited to see what the Cowboys can bring this year.
We left off Houston.
Oh, that's right, Preston Houston. Why is he not on this list?
I don't know, but
yeah, so he's a starter for him.
Yeah, he puts good. He puts minutes. He's a physical player, and he plays a sound game of basketball. He's not going to hurt you on the court, but he can shoot the three every once in a while, knock that down. So sorry, we failed to have Preston on our list here.
Yeah, no, he played really well. So they go 8-9 deep and solid group down there.
Coach Glazer's got a great squad. Enterprise Wolves. Coach Bud Randall in his 6th year.
He's only in his 6th year.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Seems like he's been there forever.
I know, 6th year. Let's see. Last year he finished in Region 6 and 4. They finished RPI number 3, and they lost eventually in the championship to San Juan in a historical game, 45-44. Let's see. Overall, number 8 in offense, and impressively number 1 team in defense.
Does that surprise you at all?
Not at all.
No way.
Nope. With the way Enterprise always plays consistently offensively, if they're the number 1 team or close to the number 1 team defensively, they're always going to be in every game. Mm-hmm. Rarely does Enterprise get blown out, just because defensively they can hang, keep games close. Let's see. Contributors, do-it-all point guard, Brady Crouch, Dax Hunt, Ty Staley, Austin Thomas. Coach's comment here, we lost 4 starters, so we'll be looking to see who steps up early in the season. At several positions, we hope to improve as the season progresses in what will be a very competitive Region 19. No kidding, Coach.
Yeah.
It will be.
And my understanding is, talking to a couple of folks from Enterprise, is they've got a bunch of younger kids, some sophomores, who kind of grew over the season. They're growing into positions. They're filling some roles. If there's one thing that our listeners, if you don't know, I think Coach Randall and his staff are the model program to get kids from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior. They have this progression. They understand what the program is like overall. They're not looking at, all right, what do I do this year? They're looking at this year and next year and down the road, and they know how to get kids. They know how to train them. They know how to give them the skills that they need to. And they are the masters of that.
They do a great job of player development. And the fact that they know they need post players, so they're going to identify a kid at a young age. We're going to develop this kid as our post player. And Whitman.
Yes.
As a sophomore, he came in and played great minutes in the post for them.
Yeah.
So I think Enterprise they got the pieces again. Old Bud and his staff, they're going to plug the pieces back in and make another solid run.
Yeah, and anytime you play defense like that, especially at this level, you are going to win games.
Yeah.
You're going to keep your team in games, and that's what they did last year. They kept their team in enough games defensively, and they had enough firepower that they could hang around. I think I don't want to say they're going to shock people because it's Enterprise, but I think people will be surprised how good and how fundamentally sound these kids are year after year.
Yeah, and how quick they just reloaded for another run. So Coach Randall, he's got him a squad. So Pair 1 Rams, Rod Murphy, 2nd year. Last year in the region, finished at 7-3. They were solid last year. Mm-hmm. They finished number 6 in the RPI. They ended up losing to Enterprise in the quarterfinals. Offensively, they're number 7 in scoring and number 15th in defense. Returning contributors, Brock Felder, Waylon Robinson, Cash Mortensen.
He played good.
And Luke Millett.
Yeah.
That's the bulk of their starting 5, or the bulk of the minutes yesterday that we did see over the weekend. They're a big team.
They're very big.
There was a couple jams by Brock Felder that were very impressive.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were warming up, they had went through once, and Brock leads it off, and he throws one down. Luke comes down, throws one down before the game. Manti's team was kind of funneling out, and they all stuck around to watch him do one more time.
I saw that, yeah.
So he demands a lot of attention of what's going on.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot, and he does get a lot of attention. I know in that game with North Summit, I mean, obviously that is the game plan, is you've got to bring extra guys to slow his production down and then hope the other guys don't get hot, because he truly is a very special player for 2A. His skill, his size, he is going to be an absolute load.
Yeah.
Coach Murphy's comment, this season has the potential to be something really great. It will take every player doing his best every day to make this season one to remember. Hard work, sacrifice, and team unity are the only options. Solid point, Coach.
Yep.
Last one? Oh, two more. San Juan Broncos.
The Broncos.
I did have head coach on here. Let me change that to head coach Johnson.
Jeff Johnson.
Jeff Johnson in his first week of coaching.
Yes, first two games.
Coaching.
Well, welcome to the 2A level.
Returning champs. They finished number 1 in the RPI last year. Offensively, number 4. Defensively, number 6. Historically, very special season for the champs last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
offensively and defensively. Returning players for San Juan, there was a lot of them, and he played a lot this weekend.
He played a lot of players.
There was a lot of guys that ran. He could have went 9-10 deep. Just some names: Colin Baker, Jersey Neves, Dakota Long, Ian Johnson. He's the one that hit the game winner.
He's the coach's son.
He hit the game winner against the
Is he a
Wolves.
lefty?
He was a lefty. Garrett Young, Anthony Dunn, Tague Palmer, Justice Black, Brigham Nelson, R.J. Daly. He shot well yesterday. I think he had 4 threes against North Severe. Keaton Ivins. So a lot to be determined with the San Juan Broncos. I'm sure at some point they'll whittle that down to a 7-8 man rotation. Maybe not. Maybe they'll go 10. Never know. But Coach Johnson's got some work to do there with the Broncos.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they turn out.
Yeah, good luck, Coach Johnson. As we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you know, he got through in the fire this week. It sounds like Wednesday they gave him the reins, and Friday he's taken over. I haven't ever coached basketball, but I was an assistant coach for many years here at Gunnison High School coaching baseball. There is a big difference between being an assistant coach and being the head coach. Assistant coach, it's easy to go say, "Hey, coach, I think we need to do this." And
Hey, Coach was a pissed off parent.
yeah, and you're like, see, I got to go.
See
Good
ya.
luck taking care of that. So, good luck, Coach Johnson. I know being on Travis's staff last year, you've got some good resources. We've talked about this before. When you get into those roles and you have some other mentors around you, especially if one of them's your brother-in-law, reach out to them. You know, Travis was in the fire for years, and last year, even though it was a very special season, I know behind the scenes there was probably a huge amount of stress and pressure and everything
Drama.
else. Fall back on those guys. If I could give you any advice as being a previous assistant coach, look to those guys who have done it. Pick their brains. Surround yourself with people who are going to support you in what you do, and it's much easier to be successful.
Couldn't say that any better. And with that, along with that, I admire coaches selflessly taking these kind of roles on. I mean, he gets put in a situation. I'm just speaking from 30,000 feet here. He just wants to make sure the kids have a good experience.
Yeah.
It'd be real easy to say, nope, sorry, not me. But coaches in general are willing to selflessly make sure kids have a good experience. So hats off to Coach Johnson for taking the reins and rolling with this one. Let's end with the Beavers and Coach Joe Hillock. Last year, they struggled in region, 0-10 record, finished number 16 in the RPI. They overall in scoring, 19 in scoring and 10th in defense. Wouldn't expect anything else other than Beaver to be a top 10 defensive team. More than likely, you'll see the same thing this year.
Yeah.
I don't know what they'll have for scoring, but defensively, Coach Hillock will play sound defense. They'll be sound offensively as well. It'll just be whether or not they can score. That was their challenge last year.
We saw that the other night. They played Millard this week in a non-region matchup, held Millard to 50 points, and we talked briefly to Coach Rhodes, and that was kind of his comment. He's like, that's what Beaver does, especially when Beaver plays at home. They're going to play you tough. They played San Juan to a 1 or 2 possession game last year at home, and then they go to Blanding, and San Juan beats them by 50 points. Coach Hillock, he may not have scores, but kids can always play defense.
Well, he'll always have his teams in it.
Yep.
That's one thing you can count on, and you can always count on if you have a game scheduled in Beaver, you're puckering a little extra because you know that place rocks there in Beaver.
Oh,
They get it going. Great fan base. They love to win in Beaver. Coach Hillock, great game planner. So he will have his team ready to go regardless of what they have coming back skill-wise. they'll be a tough out. They only have one senior on their squad this year, so they are young.
Yeah.
But I think Coach, he's very active on social media.
Of all the coaches out there, I think he is the most. He is constantly every day putting something out there.
Daily almost, yes.
He's putting some motivational quote out there, and when they have games, he's the one that's throwing all the hype stuff out there.
Yes, he is.
So I love
That's
that.
impressive to me.
It is. It's very impressive, and he always talks about getting people to the KT gym. And if you've ever been to Beaver, they've got a big screen TV, and they've got a little hype video that's going. And they have one of the most passionate fan bases in 2A. It's a tough place to play.
The other thing that's impressive to me, outside of just Coach Hillock is a Hall of Fame coach, he's never apologetic. You notice they'll lose a game, he'll post that very night and say, "Tough loss for the Beavers tonight. Thanks for your support. We're going to get better.
Yeah,
we're going to hit the gym tomorrow. We're going to get better." I love that about his posts.
Yeah.
He's not going to – you get a tough loss, and all of a sudden the social media account goes blank for a couple of days. Now he's right there that night.
Yeah.
Taking full accountability. So definitely a professional in the business.
Yeah. So that's Region 19.
That's our wrap-up right there.
Yeah. So so far in the last couple of weeks, we've went through Region 16, 17, 18, and 19. That's the lay of the land for 2A. A lot of – I don't know the landscape of 2A is.
It's wide open right now.
It is. There's so much stuff. There's a lot in Region 17, Region 18. We don't know. We both visited with Coach Alvidrez on Friday night when the Wing Lions came to town. Again, it was just fun to visit with him, and I talked to him for probably 30 minutes. We talked about basketball for maybe 5. Mm-hmm. Just we never would have had these conversations. Just talked about life and kids and just general things, and it was so enjoyable to be able to do that. And you look at those teams up north and the teams down south in Region 16, and it's wide open this year. There's no San Juan like there was last year. They said, "Oh, here's somebody coming back," and they're the front. There's no real front runners this year. There's 7 or 8 teams that on any given day can make a run.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, 3, 4 teams, 5 teams. If they won it, I would not be a surprise. Mm-hmm. So it is wide open, which is going to make for some awesome storylines this year.
Yeah, and I texted Benny. We got home last night, and my head was just spinning. There was so many things. I talked to so many people, and I said the storylines are developing. Mm-hmm. It took a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden yesterday it was like, okay, this is going on here, and this is going on here, and watch for this, and here's this, and watch for this, and it's like, holy cow!
We were nibbling on some potatoes, some soft foods for a little bit, but we got meat thrown at us.
Holy cow! And it's going to be so exciting because this year we're at a different level, and we'll be able to handle that stuff and share a lot more than we were last year.
Obviously, Region 19 is going to be what it is. I'm convinced Region 16 is going to be much more tough, much more top to bottom.
Oh yeah,
tough than it was last year. Mm-hmm. I think you start talking Millard, who is the favorite this year, but Duchesne, Gunnison, North Sevier, North Summit, all 5 collective. That's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, there's
I'm more than ever after coming home from this weekend. Gunnison got a great win Friday. North Summit got a great win. Duchesne has the pieces. It is going to be Region 16. I think is going to match up with Region 19 in the battle inside the region. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's move to our next segment. We love this segment called Inside the Numbers. We're going to do something a little bit different about Inside the Numbers, but let's talk about your question from last week.
My numbers last week were 11 and 6. Did you ever figure out what those were?
I had no clue. I thought about it all week. I'm like, I have no idea.
11 and 6. There's 2 teams in the top 10 rankings of overall state championships. One team has 11 state championships. One school has 6 state championships. First off, let's start with South Sevier has 11 state championships in basketball, historically.
Wow.
Just to run through these real quick, 1951, 54, 64, 65, 70, 84, 2000, 2001, 2006, 2011, and 2012.
Wow.
In basketball and football, to win a state championship in those that's big time stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you're winning a lot, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder South Sevier has the tradition and the confidence to play the way they play. And you're talking from little Rugrats through junior high. They just play with a level of confidence that they're going to win. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason why. I mean, 11 championships over the years. That's impressive. The other team with 6, who would you guess?
Gunnison Valley Bulldogs.
North Sevier.
North Sevier.
North Sevier, 1971, 1978. Our era, 1990, 1991. That was the years of Lance Mickelson, our great friend, Nathan Hallows.
Yeah, they were good.
Coach Craig Gladwell.
They were phenomenal.
Yeah, so went back-to-back 90-91, then went back-to-back with Coach Gladwell in 96-97 with our good friends Chad Mickelson, Kurt Bouchard, Tweeb Gladwell.
Yeah.
I believe Ryan Heath was on that team as well.
Yeah, they had some fantastic teams out there.
So our two teams inside the numbers, North Sevier with 6 total championships overall, and South Sevier with 11.
Yeah. So we'll go on and check. Go and leave us a comment. We'll look at the comments. I didn't see there was a lot from last week.
Trevor Okerlund.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he nailed it.
Oh,
he's a great loyal follower.
That's 2 weeks in a row, Trevor.
We're just gonna hook him up.
I was talking to Coach Truman from Enterprise, and he said they were walking out of some event the other night, and he ran into Gabby Bowler, who had won our first week, and he said, "Hey, by the way, you won." She's like, "Won what?" He's like, "You won it. You need to get that taken care of." So. He was a little jealous that she was going to get some stuff. She sent us our address. Gabby, if you're listening, we'll get some stuff out to you this week. It's our preseason too. We're just trying to catch up with holidays and vacations and everything else. So we'll be getting some stuff out to you. Trevor, make sure you send us your address as well, so we can get some stuff out to you. And Billy Harris, if you're out there, good Bill.
Yep,
cool Bill. If you're out there listening, send us your address. We'll get something over to you.
Also, I noticed we get a lot of I shouldn't say we get a lot. We get a handful of comments, which is understandable. We're just new at the YouTube thing, but comments are awesome. Shout out to good friend Greg Parsons. He was officiating last night. Good to see him up and down the court again officiating. He's a faithful follower. He always leaves some comments, so we appreciate that. Yeah,
so this week on Inside the Numbers, sponsored by Robertson Kimball Accounting, always supporting their South Sevier Rams. I ran into Lance yesterday after the game, visited with him for a minute. So it was good to see he and his family. This week on Inside the Numbers, what we would really just appreciate, if you would just leave us some comments on YouTube this week, whatever you like or don't like or like to see or don't want to see on the podcast, leave us some comments. That's the only way that we know on what we can do better or different is if people give us comments. Most of the stuff we hear out in the community, it's all good. And we were at the Kanab game last night, and they're warming up, and Wyatt Orton, we love Wyatt down there. He points up to us up in the stands. He's like, "I love the YouTube." So shout out to Wyatt Orton down there in Kanab. He's the ultimate hype man. But if in all seriousness, if you have anything you'd like to see, like us to do, shoot us a message. Get on YouTube. It's pretty easy. Subscribe. Get on there. Leave us a comment. Get on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of the social media platforms. Shoot us a message. You can get on our website, find our emails. Just let us know.
Yeah, so we're right now. It's full steam ahead, full speed ahead, whatever you want to call it. It's go time now.
Yeah,
we're gonna have games every Wednesday, Friday. Loads of games on Wednesdays, loads of games on Fridays. So yeah, it's time to get going.
It is. It's full force. Well, it's now for the time of the segment that we can talk about what really matters, and that's the Power 5.
Love the Power 5.
The Power 5, as always, this year will be sponsored by our good friends at Barney Trucking. If you want to drive one of the big, beautiful blue and white trucks here in Utah, keeping the lights on, visit them at barneyjobs.com.
Just a quick overview on the Power 5 for any new listeners coming in. Our Power 5 is a little different than others. It's not a ranking of the best team, number 1 team versus 5 team versus who's better. Mm-hmm. It's who's hot right now.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's our gut feeling. We have a couple parameters we work within, but it's pretty much our gut feel of who's hot and doing something special right now.
Yeah, and I was talking with a good friend today at church, and he was asking me how we do the Power 5. And I was explaining to him, I said, this is one thing you'll notice about the Power 5. We're never just going to randomly throw something out there. When we put this list down, we've got a pretty good idea why the teams are where they are. Mm-hmm. We're not just saying, oh, here's 1 through 5, and here you go, and we throw it out there. No, we've thought about this. We've looked at it. We've thought, all right, who's playing good, who's not. Again, if the state tournament started today, which team is the hottest and could compete for a state championship?
Yep.
All right.
Where do you want to start? The bottom?
Let's start at the bottom today.
You want to start with dark horses?
Let's start with the dark horses, and then we'll move into the Power 5.
Okay. Dark horses. The first dark horse, we're going to go with the Duchesne Eagles.
Yeah.
I think the Duchesne Eagles, they have all the pieces. When you talk about our Power 5, we look at coaching staff. We look at all the pieces that are necessary for a winning team. Post play, shooting guards, point guards, defense, offense, all the pieces together. Duchesne has all those pieces. Mm-hmm. They've played a tough schedule thus far. Our number one power team, they've played Kanab, and they've played Juab. Have they played any other games besides those?
I think those are the only games so far they played.
Look at that real quick. But Duchesne have all the pieces. They're going to remain a dark horse. I just think they're going to do some great things. Coach Hoops is very confident in his team. They're going to be able to score the ball, and they're going to be able to defend. Mm-hmm. So Duchesne will be my first dark horse team.
Yeah, the one thing, while I'm looking this up, the one thing I like about Duchesne, looks like they've actually played 3 games. They played Mazer Prep early on, had a tough loss at Kanab, beat by a tough Juab team. Duchesne, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid Duchesne's going to be a casualty of the RPI again this year. They have played a tough schedule. They have a very tough schedule coming up. They have a road trip where they go to South Sevier, Enterprise, and Beaver on back-to-back nights. That is going to test that team. But the one thing I think they have going for them is they are going to play teams tough. They were in a nail-biter last year at South Sevier in the play-in game. It was a one-possession game.
They played South Sevier twice last year.
Yes.
Tough.
So I'm not necessarily saying they are going to fall down. The challenge with playing a tough preseason schedule, if you drop those games, you take the hit in the RPI, and it's just hard to get back up. I do think that's why they're here on our dark horse list, is they do have the ability to make a run. Regardless of where they end up, they'll make a run.
Leaders for the Eagles at this point right now, shooting guard Parker Crum at 17 points a game, Jep Young in the post, 8 points a game, Cade Gines, guard, can get out and harass and do great things, get in the paint. Dallin Porter does a lot of good work.
Yes, he does.
Rebounding defensively, scoring at 6.5, and Hunter Gardner coming in at 2 points per game. Those are your leaders, stat leaders for the Eagles at this point.
Yeah, which is pretty much their team from last year minus Torgerson. I looks like the kids are bigger, they're stronger. I know a lot of those kids play football. They bulked up. Jep Young looks a lot bigger. Parker Crum's gotten a lot better. Not that they had bad years last year, but again, I think they're just taking that next step. So that's why they're there.
Next dark horse team.
Parowan Rams.
Parowan Rams. I think you cannot go into a listing of Power 5 teams and dark horse teams without a team with Brock Felder on them. It always has a chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got the pieces together. I think they need to tune the engine a little bit down there. If Coach Murphy figures that out, watch out.
Now, if you remember last year, same scenario.
Yep.
They come in with a lot of hype just because they were loaded. They had a great team coming back last year. They roll into the SVC, and North Summit knocks them off last year. Mm-hmm. That's when we first were introduced to Mel Brown. Yeah. This year, the Parowan Rams, led by Cash Mortensen at 17 points a game. He's a great scorer. Made some big shots last night. Had a layup within the last, I think, 10 seconds, a dynamic layup to tie that game up. Brock Felder at 15.7. Waylon Robinson at 10.3. Luke Millett at 7.7. And Cooper Miller at 2.0. Coach Murphy has the pieces, and when you add Brock Felder into that mix, they've got a shot. So they will remain a dark horse team.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, especially as they get into region play, which region play with the RPI is really just kind of another game. But it's going to be interesting when they get into region play and they match up with somebody like South Sevier, where Pair 1 goes 6'8", 6'7" with Felder and Millett, and then a bunch of guards. How they match up? There's some huge dichotomies in that region. So, but they are a team. Last year, remember, we were down there in Pair 1 and they blew out San Juan.
Yes, they did.
And they were hot, and then just kind of fizzled at the end. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year.
The one team that moved out of we're exceeded our limit here on on our sponsors. Oh, there we go.
Right.
Fire back up.
What do we got here?
We got some technical difficulties. Bones, come fix us up.
See, this is where you can see the producer. He comes in.
Yeah, get that volume
There you
off
go.
there. What's it going to show? Oh, it's going to show a podcast here? Hey, hook us up with the sponsor page again, would you, bud?
So you're seeing down and dirty right now what it's like to run this thing.
Our producer's going to get our sponsor thing back up and rolling here. You got it, bud? Very nice.
Yeah.
Good job, bud.
There we go.
Where were we at? Oh, so those are our two dark horse teams. The team that got bumped out of our dark horses Gunnison Bulldogs were in the. What did you think about the Gunnison Bulldogs on Friday night?
I thought they looked much better than they did on Wednesday night or Tuesday night when they went down to play Paiute. I'll caveat it with this: Paiute is a tough team. They're one of those teams that just have a storied history. They do what they do and they run it really, really well.
They're
And
very, very well coached.
yeah, early in the season, those 1A teams play well. I can't say enough about Paiute. They played well. Gunnison didn't show very well, but they came back against a scrappy Roland Hall team. I thought they shot the ball really well. Jet had a great game, shot the ball from 3 well. I thought we moved well in transition. We played good defense. I think overall our kids kept their cool. There was a couple times in the game, got a little heated, but I think our kids did well in that atmosphere.
Yeah, I was pleased how this is how I thought Gunnison would be able to play, get up and down the court, shoot the ball well. So they bounce out of the as a dark horse team, but the Gunnison Bulldogs are a team to look out for.
Yeah,
Sitting
for
at
sure.
2-1.
They still have like we talk about. They still have all the pieces. They've got the big guys. They've got the shooters. They've got what they need to do it. They just they got to fine tune that engine, and if they can do that, they can make a run.
Let's go with our number 5 team, a surprise team going to bounce into our Power 5 just because we can.
Number 5 team is the North Summit Braves.
Now, why would you put North Summit Braves in the Power 5?
There's a bunch of reasons. There's a bunch of reasons for me. Number one, I love being down on the court where you can hear what's going on. You can hear the interactions. Going into that Parowan game, Parowan is intimidating. They have the big guys. Again, they have Felder that comes out, Millett that comes out. And I know as kids, you see the other team down on the other end dunking, and it's easy to say, oh, crap, guys. Never once did I hear anything negative from those kids. They said, we're going to go out, we're going to play our game. Coach Priest had those kids ready to go. I love the cohesiveness of their team. They've got some bigs. They got Mel Brown, Buck Sargent. He's a young kid, but he's physical. They got their guard line, Sawyer Richens. They plug in a bunch of younger guys. Morrow comes off the bench. He's their scrum guy. I like the Braves. They got a taste of success last year, and you get a hungry team like that, watch out.
So North Summit is the definition of a team that jumps in the Power 5 because of what have you done for me lately.
Yep.
They knock off the number 5 team, Parowan Rams. They led most of the game, too.
They did.
So start to finish, North Summit controlled that entire game. Coach Priest, great friend, great win. Stat line for the leaders for the Braves, Trevor Richens, sophomore, I believe, had a fantastic game last night. Little guy, but man, he was going in the paint. He was attacking the rim. It was impressive.
Yes, very good game.
Trevor Richens coming at 17.3 points per game. Mel Brown, we've said a lot about him. He may be the most improved player in 2A.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it.
He's a leader for the Braves at 15.3. Sawyer Richens, great court game. 19.8. Buck Sargent was great in the post, physically handling Brock Felder. He's 6.5 points per game. And Jake Smith at 3.8 points a game. So the Braves coming introduced at the 5 spot this year.
Yeah, and I love their passion. I love the way they play. They're very physical. A lot of energy, a lot of emotion. Sometimes that's good, but they did keep that under control last night.
So, great win.
Yeah. All right, let's go to number 4.
Number 4, the Enterprise Wolves. They stay in the 4 spot.
Yeah, Enterprise is just that train that just keeps going down the tracks.
So there's no surprise here. They take a tough loss, like I said, 63-55 versus Ogden. Ogden is a very, very good team.
Much improved from years past.
Very good team. And then they beat Carbon Saturday morning 66-48. One thing about Enterprise that's always impressive to me is Coach Randall and his staff. They never panic. No matter, even in game, they never panic. After a loss, they never panic. Next day, you just go out and blow a team out by 20. So they might have had the toughest schedule at the SVC for a 2A team when they get 3A Ogden and 3A Carbon. To come out 1-1 and with an impressive win in Enterprise style Carbon, they're definitely a team in our Power 5.
Yeah, and I think they're going to stay there by virtue of the fact that they're the number 1 team defensively last year in 2A. I already know what Coach Randall's, they preach defense. They preach, it's almost like old school Hoosiers. I've never been to a practice, but that's what I envision it's like. They are fundamentally sound, and that's what always keeps them in the game. And then they've got some guys. Dax Hunt is stepping up. He's kind of the sharpshooter again this year.
He shot well.
Phenomenal player. Austin Thomas is going to give him some big minutes this year. And they have arguably the best point guard in 2A as a junior with Brady Crouch. The guy, I don't think pressure phases him.
Now, you talk a lot about Brady Crouch. You do. You're a big fan, and I'm a huge fan. I watched their game yesterday. The announcers on the radio, word for word, said Brady Crouch is probably the best point guard in 2A basketball.
Yeah.
So in the mouth of 2 or 3, you're not just the only one, and I'm not the only. There's many others that speak the same language.
Yeah, and just really quick, and then we'll move on. I was visiting with his dad yesterday, and I said, Brady seems so cool. And he made the comment, he said, I've actually talked to Brady and said, hey, why don't you show a little bit more emotion and get a little more excited? And he said, it's just not Brady. And I love, he came and sat down, and I've got to know him a little bit, and he is the most, I don't even know what the word for it is, genuine high school player at that level, as composed and as well-spoken as I think I've seen anybody. Now, there's a lot of really good kids out there, don't get me wrong, but the way he handles himself, the way he carries himself on the court, some things that he did last year after the state championship game, he's a respecter of the game. We've always said that. I am a huge, huge fan of Brady Crouch.
And when teams, not to digress, but when teams have great point guards, teams run better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Enterprise is going to stay put at the 4 spot. Number 3.
Millard Eagles.
Love the Eagles.
They're picking up exactly where they left off last year. One thing that I love about the Eagles is they go down to Beaver. Teams are gonna. They don't have to scout Millard anymore. They already know who the number 1 guy is. Yep. We've talked about arguably the best scorer in 2A is Hunter Rhodes, and teams know that. But you shut down Hunter, and guess what? You got the silent assassin Brant Stevens that goes for 20 plus.
Yep.
And you got a cast of players down there, Davies, Gillens, a bunch of these guys that are stepping up. They're going to have a good season this year. It's not just the Rhodes and Stevens show. They've got a great supporting cast.
My website's not working very well. I got to give some shout out to some other kids, but Millard is going to do some great things. They're going to stay solid at the 3 spot. Mm-hmm. They're going to win a lot of games.
They are.
I think they're going to stay in our Power 5 most of the season.
Yep.
If not, they'll stay there the whole time.
All right, let's go number 2.
South Severe.
South Severe. They've had a tough preseason. They have a lot tougher preseason coming in front of them. I think we've talked about that. Coach Christensen is going to challenge his team and get them ready for, I don't want to say for region play, because with the RPI, we were talking about this on the way home, a game's a game anymore. Region are just games you have to play.
Yeah, they're just scheduled games that you can't get out of.
But they are tough. They present all kind of matchup problems for people. They have an engine that just goes and goes and goes, and they are what they are. I can't say anything else about South Severe. They are just a well-rounded, dynamic team.
South Severe is our 2 spot, and South Severe led by we mentioned this. We went through the region breakdown just barely. Emilio Miramontes, Riley Barney, Keegan Heath, Ridge Tebbs, Carter Abraham. They're a very special team, and they're going to be a tough opponent for just about everybody.
Yeah, just by virtue again of how they run and what their staff looks like, they present all kind of matchup problems.
That's the matchup problem is that's what everybody. I talk to coaches and I love to ask them, how are you going to defend South Sevier, and most are very that they don't know.
Yeah,
you can try to zone. But then you risk giving up a lot of 3-point shots, and if they're hot, it's game over. You can man-to-man, and you just hope you can put 5 guys that can stay in front of them because they're just going to gash you, drive, kick out. So they create a huge mismatch for teams. So South Sevier number 2 in our Power 5 ranking.
Yep. All right, let's go to number 1.
Kanab Cowboys. When we say that, we should just turn on the circus music a little bit. Because the Kanab Cowboys, they always put on a show, irregardless.
Yeah, they're going to make it. Sometimes it feels like they make it harder than it needs to be. But this was the comment on the way home as we were driving home. They always find a way to win. That's what great teams do.
As ugly as their games were down, shouldn't say that. They probably weren't as clean as games as Coach Glazier would have wanted. The Duchesne game. There was a lot of turnovers. They started really slow. They were down double digits in the first couple minutes. So I don't think they were – well, for sure, they did not play as clean as Coach Glazier would like them to play. But at the end of the day, they find a way to win against Duchesne, and they find a way to win against Delta.
And that's really what they did last year too. If you remember, they kind of limped into the playoffs as the number 10 seed as a Cinderella, went on the road to APA West Valley and were struggling in the first half of that game. Case and Janes kind of took off, and they kind of ran with it. And they said, well, if we're here, I remember talking to Coach Glazier. I said, well, if we're here, we're playing with house money. We just as well win. And they did. And I think that's what the Kanab Cowboys do. They have a great tradition at their school. They know how to win. And I think there's an expectation that when you guys go, you win.
Yeah, so they and Coach Glazier is a very tactical coach, and he runs absolutely awesome offensive sets that gets his players the ball. I know specifically last night I was just watching, there was sets ran for Kaysen to get Kaysen, looks going to the rim in his. There was sets ran for Logan Little to get lobs up or over in a post-up game for him to get easy looks. Stuff was ran for Jordan Cornell for his specialty, shooting threes. Coach Glazier is a great tactical coach. And he's going to give his guys and put his guys in the best positions for them to be successful. I got my internet back up working again.
Oh, nice.
Ridiculous. Probably because we're down in the basement here. Who knows? But the Cowboys are led by Jordan Cornell at 11.8, Derek Brown 11 points per game, Logan Little 9.3, Trent Orton 6.5, and Brandon Day at 6.0. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Case and Janes has played just a few games.
Correct.
Just a few games now.
Yeah.
These 2 games, I think, one previous to that.
Yeah, where he didn't do a whole lot in the previous games. Yeah.
So, irregardless, Kanab is deeper than they perhaps they were last year, of guys that can come in and contribute. So, we started preseason with Kanab. They keep winning games, so there's no reason to drop them at this point.
Yeah, and I think they're playing well. Like you mentioned, their coaching staff. I think they have one of the most dynamic coaching staffs around. You got Bucky Orton on the bench, Coach Chad on the bench. They know how to win. Glazier's been in a lot of games. This may only be his second year coaching, but he understands the game.
Yeah.
So there's our Power 5 again for this week. We're fully in the fire right now.
It's go time now. And then this Power 5, that's what's fun now is the Power 5. It'll flow much more now. We haven't had a lot to work with up to this point, but now there's going to be some influx. Teams start winning and losing. Teams get hot. That's what's last year. There was teams that were non-existent, and all of a sudden they caught fire and boom, they rose through the Power 5 quick. That's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, it's good. This is finally getting going. I texted Benny earlier today. I'm like, my basketball brain's ready to explode, I had all these thoughts going on. There was so much. I wasn't used to it early in the season. This feels like state tournament time last year, where there was so much stuff thrown at us. It's like, all right, what do you talk about, and how do you sort through the minutia to talk about what's important?
Yeah,
we're already there, and we're week 4.
Yeah, week 4. But now what's awesome too is now we start getting these games within region matchups that start to become great storylines. You may start to see a nice rivalry developing. I think you're going to see that in both regions, 16 and 19.
Yeah, especially when both regions play home and away.
Yeah,
I agree with you. You're going to see some things things might get a little chippy out on the court, and
that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, and as we'd mentioned too, this year it's wide open. I think there's one of 8 teams realistically that could get hot and go win it. And last year we did have that, but there was a couple that were at the top. I think San Juan was at the top kind of all season. They kind of bounced around, but we always knew San Juan was there, and then there was Enterprise, and then everything else.
Did San Juan ever leave the top spot?
They did leave the top. So I think we had Parowan.
That's right. Parowan bumped up there.
And I think we had Enterprise early on when they went over to Blanding and bumped them off the first game. Other than that, San Juan held the top spot. They had some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they got it done. So this year, it's going to be interesting to see how things work and shake out.
No, it's going to be
Only
exciting.
time will tell. That's the great thing about sports is you can't script it. I have no idea what's going to happen.
That have to be along for the ride.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Well, let's close out tonight with our wrap-up sponsored by G-Telco, Lightburst Broadband, the Sanders family. The Vikings got another win today, so I'm sure all is well with the Sanders today.
Gary's happy too.
Oh, that's my son. He is ecstatic. He's like, oh, they only won by 3. I'm like, but they won. And then he says they got the second best record to Philly. He's like, Philly's not even any good. I'm like, they're 9-1, but
I think they're 10-1.
10-1. But he's happy for his Vikings this year.
Absolutely.
So let's wrap up thoughts for tonight.
Got me mid-drink with my Mountain Dew. Wrap-up thoughts. My wrap-up thought is Region 16, I think, is going to be top to bottom as competitive as Region 19 is. And I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yep.
Every game in that region, all the way top to bottom, every game is going to be an absolute grinder. And I have no idea how it's going to play out either, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I was pleasantly surprised this weekend to see some of those teams in Region 16. Early on, we're like, we don't know. This might be a 1 or 2 horse race. No, this is going to be a grinder.
It's going to be a 5-team grinder.
This is going to be a grinder. Seeing what North Sevier did, seeing what Duchesne did, saw the Bulldogs, Millard. It's every night, I think, and there's going to be some teams. Maybe we'll get back to the old days of the North Summit Gunnison games. Boy, they used to be, and those games were just electric.
Well, North Sevier Gunnison games are going to be
on
fire. They always are. Last year they split. North Sevier won at Gunnison, and then Gunnison returned the favor and won in North Sevier. So I think you're going to see a great there's a rivalry developing between Duchesne and Millard. Both those games were within a possession or two. I know Millard beat Duchesne on a last-second shot last year in Duchesne, and it was within a possession or two in Millard last year as well. So there's a nice rivalry developing right there. There's always, for years, been a nice rivalry between Gunnison and North Summit. So I'm excited to watch Region 16 this year too.
Yeah, and
last year was kind of a one-team. Millard was loaded, and then Region 19 is about all we spoke about last year. We're going to have a battle between the two regions this year. I do believe that.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see if anything comes out of Region 17 or 18. Last year we had some teams. The Wing Lions rose up last year.
True.
Excited to see somebody from one of those two regions will make some noise. I'm not sure who it is, but I think somebody will make some noise down the road. And then Region 19 will be, it'll be a battle royal every night in those games. It'll be state championship atmosphere. I don't care who's playing for all those last 10 games that teams play in Region 19. Watch out.
Yeah, you're correct. When teams from up north in the Region 17 and 18, when they join the party, it adds a lot more variety. And Roland Hall filled that void last year. It was fun to talk about them and fun to follow them. So hopefully one of those breaks through.
Yeah. It's going to be really exciting.
That's all I got.
All right, one last thing we'd like to talk about. We threw some stuff on our Instagram that came out from Crosby Home and Farm, who's one of our new sponsors this year. They'll be doing a giveaway for a Traeger grill. Traeger's the hottest thing out there. And we need to get some details out.
I'll get those put together on Instagram. That's where that's going to be driven. Yeah. We'll get some details on this giveaway for that Traeger grill, and hopefully we get a lot of participation with that.
Yeah, and in trading some messages with Luke Crosby down there in Kanab, he said, really his biggest thing is he wants to prop up the podcast, give some support to all of our sponsors. Certainly, we'd like to give some business back to those folks there in Kanab as well. That's why you sponsored. You want to get your name out and eventually get some people come in and drive in business, so you continue to do those things. But we appreciate Luke doing that. We're going to get some details out this week.
Yep.
So be watching for those. But go on. If there's one thing I would say, go on, check out all of our sponsors. When we throw stuff up on Instagram, like them. If there's any businesses that you can go and participate in what they're doing, reach out to them, like their stuff that's out there on social media. Sometimes there's not a lot you can do. I look at one of our sponsors, Barney Trucking. I mean, you can't just go out and buy a load of coal or something like that. But if you happen to see any of those folks around or pay attention or know anybody that works there, tell them thank you. It's sponsors like that. Barney's is a prime example. They sponsor so many things. If you're watching a broadcast on teamhive.live, Barney Trucking is going to be on one of the ads.
Yep.
Snow College. Snow College is a huge sponsor. Most of the halftime shows are sponsored by Snow College. We appreciate G Telco. A lot of the local broadcasts, they're doing most of that stuff. Dixie Power, I know they support a lot of stuff down south. Those are the sponsors that make things. Our good friends at Security National. I can't say enough about Chris Jorgensen. That's why the podcast is here. That's why we keep it going. I was reminded again, this is kind of my closing thought. I was reminded again yesterday why we do the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We both were, I know we both wanted to go out to the games. We had things to do at home. You get in that kind of that mode. Christmas is coming up. It's like, I thought to myself, there's a lot of things going on. I could get done at home. And then I told myself, no, we need to go. And as soon as I walked in that building, I'm like, this is why we do the podcast. And it's, again, basketball is kind of the media to get us there. But maybe 5% of my conversations were about basketball. The rest of it was we talked about Jackson in multiple conversations yesterday. We talked about the podcast. We talked about kids. We talked about life and everything else. I'm like, this is why we do what we do.
Yep, absolutely.
So I don't know. I can't say I was so excited. I couldn't sleep for a while last night because I was so excited to get here today and talk about it and get to revisit with all of our friends, start this thing back up again.
I can't wait.
It's going to be a fun season. It's already been a fun season. Again, a lot of good things in the works, so we appreciate you sponsoring us this year. Go on to YouTube, subscribe, leave us a comment, go on to all of our social media platforms, follow us. If you have any comments, let us know. So as we finish out tonight, we appreciate you joining us for the fourth row. For the coach Benny Hill, I'm your host Andy Hill, and we're out.
Thank you for spending your time with the Fourth Row. For more information, check out our website at fourthrowmedia.com or send us a message through any of our social media channels.